Pulavunaka, and welcome to another episode of For the Record. Tonight in studio with us we have the leader of the Fiji United Freedom Party, Mr. Jagat Karunaratne, who will be talking to us about the party's plans for the September elections. And joining me on the panel tonight we have Shirian Wilson from the Fiji Television newsroom. She is a senior journalist with Fiji One News. And our regular panelist, Nemani Ndelaimbatiki, the manager training at Fiji Sun Limited. As always, we endeavor to have as many of the media represented on this show as possible. And tonight we continue with the show talking to Mr. Jagat. We'll get right into it. Mr. Jagat, first of all, thank you very much for coming on the show. The Fiji United Freedom Party is one of, if not the newest party to enter this election. Yes. And you yourself are very much unknown around Fiji.
Yes.
What does the FUFP have to offer for the September elections?
Well, the party was formed basically to set up a platform for whoever wants to join into politics. It has a little bit of history where how we all came together. At the end, like I was working with the youth group and trying to do what we can do now. And then there's another political party that was National Youth Party at the time. They approached me and they offered me to join the party and then set up a political party. So what actually happened was that then whatever I was trying to do with the youth, then I realized maybe I can use this within this time period to present something and then shape it up to become a political party and get the youth who are involved in the youth activities to be part of this, whether they want to contest or whether they want to continue with whatever they are doing in a platform where they can voice their opinion. So that is how the party was born.
If I can just ask, maybe just leading off into basically who you are, I think it's always important that voters can identify with people who want to stand in an election and represent the sort of needs they have. So who are you, and what nationality do you belong to, and probably just getting into the details of we're not really, you're Sri Lankan, but maybe explaining how you got here to Fiji and why have you decided to contest this year?
Right. Yeah, I'm from Sri Lanka. I was born in Sri Lanka. I left Sri Lanka about 24 plus years ago. Then I moved on to Singapore as my first overseas job. And from there I got the opportunity to work in IBM New Zealand. During my period with IBM, about 6 years, I have been traveling on projects to various countries. That is like they assign me to a project, which sometimes with 3 months or 6 months, so that sort of projects, and then move on to the next. So I have traveled quite a number of to quite a number of countries, more than probably 30. And then the last project with IBM was for Telecom Fiji. This was late 2000. Then I came to Fiji with a team from IBM for a project for Telecom Fiji. We completed the project in about 3 to 4 months, and after the project is over, the whole team went back, and Telecom wanted to stay back for a month, and then it kept on getting extended. So after that, they also offered me a contract for 3 years, which I took. And during this period, I met somebody in Fiji, and I'm married to her now. We have been together almost more than 10 years. And one thing led to another. I came for a project with IBM and to do it for Telecom Fiji. And then I settled down here. So since then, I never went back. It has been 14 years in Fiji. Yeah.
Some years ago, you sort of burst into the limelight. You became politically active. You were involved in certain activities. Now, you are part of this political party, or you are the leader of this new political party. What is it that you are fighting for? number one. Number two is, how does it compare with where you come from Sri Lanka?
Well, to answer the first question, when you said I was involved with certain activities, I wouldn't say that. After I finished with Telecom Fiji, then I worked for Fijian Holdings for a while. Then I went on to investments, especially in the IT sector, and then on to the other projects. During this time, I met with the landowners, because investments involve landowners and things like that. And they used to share with me the issues that they're facing in terms of land and all that. So in the process, I started becoming curious about, what is this? What are the issues in Fiji? I did not know much about those things before. So I started sharing more things with the landowners. They started sharing their issues with me.
Are they similar to the situation in Sri Lanka when it comes to land and other issues?
Some are similar, but not really the land. Land is something unique in Fiji from my travels. But we have similar situations. Like, for example, if you look at the Indian community who are in Fiji, we also had the same situation. I mean, same situation, where the British, when we were under colonial rule, they brought in Indian community to Sri Lanka for tea plantation. Similarly here, they were brought in by British for sugar. And we had that ethnic conflict even before that. It went on for generations and centuries. And recently we had a very long-going civil war that started in 1983, and which ended in about 2005. About billions of dollars were spent on that war. Finally, the war ended in 2005, and people kind of realized that the solution is working together. And during the last 5, 8, 10 years, the country developed so much, even can compare now to somewhat to Singapore. But before that, over more than 30 years, it was all the money was spent in the war, and millions of people died in both places. So in that aspect, the issues that we see somewhat quite similar, but not particularly in the land.
Mm-hmm. All right. On that note, it's time for a very quick break. We'll be right back talking to the leader of the Fiji United Freedom Party, Mr. Jagat Karunaratne. Welcome back to For the Record. We're talking to the leader of the FUFP, the Fiji United Freedom Party, Mr. Jagat Karunaratne. Mr. Karunaratne, let's come back to Fiji now. You gave a bit of a history about yourself and Sri Lanka. Now that you have made your intentions known of contesting the elections, you do realize that you're going up against some of the strongest political opponents in the country. Your chances don't look very strong.
As I was saying, Edwin, the focus of the party is to prepare a platform for the youth and whoever is willing to come into political arena. It doesn't really mean that we are in the race to get into the parliament. So we have formed the party, we have shaped it up. As you know, it got rejected once, and then we went back again, and finally we got the party registered. Now what we are saying is, now we have also presented the model manifesto. It's just a model that we believe that can work for Fiji. So the focus right now is to take that model to grassroots level, to the traditional leadership, to the other national leaders, and see their reaction, whether it is going to be accepted or there's going to be changes. Of course, there will be changes. So in the process of refining the model that we have presented. In the process, if anyone comes across and says that, yes, I believe in this, and this is how we shape it up to be the perfect model, but I want to take it to the parliament, and I want to take it to the parliament, and from there I want to fight for the model and the concept that we believe in, then they will come and take it through. So at the moment, the main focus is to go to the rural areas, go to national leaders, go to traditional leaders, and present it to them, and then see whether this is something that they will accept, And so far we have done that, and we have received a tremendous support, which is very, very satisfying in terms of getting it across to the people. And also a lot of people are coming together. And I must say that I just yesterday I got an invitation from Nandronga province that they are organizing an event in Lavanga Park, and they invited me to come and speak to the people there about the model that we are talking about. So in that aspect, we are moving ahead already with what we are doing, and even this model is also, it can work with the government or it can work it on its own.
Would it have been easier for you to join an already established political party with similar aspirations, other than starting up your own and really struggling to get the sort of support that's probably with the other stronger parties currently?
Yes, that's what we have said when we presented the model in Tanoma Plaza last week. We said this is what we believe in, this is what we are presenting, and if any party is willing to accept, of course with modifications, there will be give and take. If any party is willing to accept this model and refine it and shape it up, we are willing to work with them. So
sorry, that is a moral, what is it again?
The model.
Manifesto.
A model
It's
manifesto.
just a model.
Well, I was going to come to this later. Model manifesto, which I believe the FUFP has been circulating, as you said, and also been taking to its meetings. Tell us about this model. What is it? Because I understand this is what you're going to use to form your manifesto.
Yes.
Tell us about this model.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it has two major elements. First one that we call as a United Supreme Council. United Supreme Council is for traditional leaders, resource owners, and any other national leaders from any ethnic background. But they should be apolitical.
And how would this Supreme Council work?
Yeah, that's what I'm coming to. So the idea behind the Supreme Council is to do with the resources, basically the resource owners. So they bring in their resources without disrupting their rights in the ownership or anything of that sort. They bring the resources that they want to develop and take it to the next level. And then in parallel, what we are proposing is a United Business Council. United Business Council will have the business houses, business entities, individuals who are in business, and investors. So the idea behind this is to bring the resources and the business community together. And as a result of these two entities, what we are proposing is to have a corporate structure underneath these two. So we have named it as VT Holdings Limited. At the moment, they are all symbolic, nothing registered. So we have, one hand we have the resources coming in, and on the other hand we have the business entities and the finances coming in. And as a result, there will be a corporate structure, and this corporate structure will deal with the resources and how it can be developed. So that is basically the concept with two units. And then on the other hand, we have a council, we call it as the United Council of Saints.
Of saints.
Saints.
Okay.
So that will have the religious leaders.
It's quite a lengthy document, I understand.
Yeah.
Neman, you have a question in relation to.
I'm just curious to know. Well, first of all, how it's going to work, because how does that fit into this concept about free enterprise? I mean, you go into business, you have that freedom to be able to to do whatever you want, but under my first perception when I hear you is that the model doesn't constrain people to be able to go out and do their own things.
The question is, like, when you talk about free enterprise,
Yeah.
do we have that in terms of the resources that we have? Like, the resource owners are wanting to get into the corporate world and wanting to get into investments. but they are also confined within their own resource management units, and especially when it comes to land issues. Either they are with their Matangani or their provinces, and also when it comes to the access to the resources, if a business person wants to come and do something with the resource, there is no direct link.
Are you saying that the present system is cumbersome? It doesn't encourage, development in the respect?
It does and it does not. You can say, like, in terms of, okay, if you look at an investor coming to Fiji to get into timber business or something of that sort, then there's a process already in place where they probably go to TLTB, and then the TLTB does the administration part, and then it goes to the resource owner, and they're trying to link these two entities together. And at times it really does not work the way the both sides want it to be.
A quick question. We're about to go to break, but how would this work? Are you saying that, are you proposing that a government after elections set up this entity? Is that how it would work?
This can be set up even by the business community and resources owners coming together. But if the government has its support, if it provides its support to get this thing going, and that will help.
What is your party's basis for this proposal? Why do you see this as something that needs to be done?
Because we always have this issue about the land and the resources, and the protection of land and all these issues comes with it, because the word protection comes from the fear of somebody else taking it, right? So this is where we are saying we need to come together, and we need to have a model where we can come together with consensus from both sides.
Does this model, the VT holdings as you propose,
Yep.
do you have a point-by-point document or ideas of what the framework of this will be? Is it just an idea that you're floating, or is this something concrete that you have thought about and are ready to proceed with?
It is an idea, but with some detailed segments in it, in terms of welfare, in terms of how the resource owners will bring their resources, how it's going to protect their indigenous rights and land rights and all that. All that is there. But when it comes to taking it further as a corporate model, normal corporate principles will apply.
I'm just looking at what the model supposedly looks like. It looks just similar to what we currently have in government structures, and of course a body like Fijian Holdings Limited. But you've just worded it differently. Is that what you are driving at?
Okay, if you look at Fijian Holdings Limited, it is only with the Itoki community and certain people and certain provinces coming together. But
those are resource owners?
Yes, but what we are proposing is different communities coming together. In the Supreme Council, you not only have the Itoki community, it can have any other national leader who is apolitical being part of the Supreme Council.
It goes back to another point. How do you propose the Supreme Council would exist? Bearing in mind we have an elected government that's running the country, they have the mandate of the people. How then does the United Supreme Council come into being?
The governance and the government will continue as is. So what we are proposing is an entity where people can come together, like we have issues about unity, we have issues about different ethnic races, segments are conflicting each other, we have conflicting issues. What we are basically trying to say here is that by coming together, we can get the resources together with the business community, and we can develop it to grow the economy, as well as when you have the equal economic status, the unity and will come together with it. So what we have seen from our experience and going across the country and all that, we can see that it's not merging the two communities and the business community and the resource owners. There's always this suspicion and also it's like always going against each other.
All right. Mr. Jagat, on that note, we'll have to take a quick break. We will continue discussions with the FUFP leader, Mr. Jagat Karunaratne, right after this break. Welcome back to For the Record. We're talking to the leader of the Fiji United Freedom Party, Mr. Jagat Karunaratne. Mr. Jagat, before the break, we were talking about the United Supreme Council that the FUFP has proposed, also proposed VT Holdings Limited to bring together businesses, resource owners, and all other sectors. Also part of your proposal or the ideals, I understand it, of the Fiji United Freedom Party is the United Council of Saints. From the PowerPoint slide I have before me, it consists of Hindus, Christians, and others.
Yes.
What proposed role would this council play?
This is not a council to discuss about the religion and the differences or interfaith kind of organization. This is, the idea behind this is, if you look at the church, for example, they have a beautiful administration system model behind it. Like they go right to the grassroots people, and church probably be the only entity that understands or knows the statistics of how many people in one village, how many in a family, and how many people working in that family, and their economic status, and all that kind of information. So they have a beautiful governance model behind them. So what we are trying to do here is to utilize those governance models for welfare. They understand their people, the problems they face, and kind of personalized manner. So if you, let's say, for example, BT holding structure will allocate 20% of their profits for welfare, that can be channeled through a system, a structure like this. So it is not only the church, so it will have the Hindus and the other communities there, and they also have that structure behind them, the governance model behind them. What we are trying to do is to utilize that to reach out to the grassroots level.
So everything is governed or run by the United Supreme Council, the Council of Saints, the Business Council. It all branches underneath the Supreme Council, I understand. Is that what you're proposing?
So no, it's in the same layer, right? So main two entities are the resource owning unit, which is the Supreme Council, and national leaders, where they can discuss national issues without being political. And then we have a business entity, business council, where they come to form the corporate model.
I'll give it to the panel.
So like you mentioned, the faiths already have a beautiful structure in place. They already individually, I think different denominations in this country already do their own charity work individually. So why should they consider using or adopting such a model or being part of it?
Well, they are already doing whatever their charity work they must be doing. What we are proposing is like, okay, if you look at the government also has a welfare program where they try to reach out to the poor and needy. And the government machinery can probably reach out to a certain extent. And what we are saying is, while that is happening, and when we have a system, when we have a governance model like that, that they understand the problems at grassroots level, and also they are relating to their problems almost everyday basis. So what we can do is we can plug that into this, and we can have a better distribution system even on welfare. And also, if you have a corporate model where you bring in the resources and the business people together, and there will be a growth in the economy. And if it is going to happen within the resources that you have, and people also coming together, there can be an allocation, certain allocation that can be provided apart from the government, that can facilitate the people in the rural areas, and that can address their needs. That's what we are trying to do.
Nimani.
I get the impression that that your basic aim is to utilize our resource better, right?
Yes.
Okay. The other bit that comes with it is that you're trying to use that model to try and achieve that goal, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how do you? I'm trying to understand it. How do you? First of all, there are structures already in place, in government and in the private sector that takes care of these concerns that you have. Are you trying to tell us that the current system is unacceptable, that the current system doesn't effectively address the concerns that you have, and that there's so much bureaucracy and red tape in the current system that makes it impossible to utilize the resources that we have?
Not exactly. We are not proposing to disrupt any system that is in place. However, we have realized by consulting people and going around on the country that there is still a segment, especially when it comes to resource owners. They have lots of plans. They have formed their little entities, resource management group, this and that, things like that. And they are trying to get into the corporate and the business models. But the problem that they are having is they don't have the funding capital, the initial capital. When it comes to that, what happens is these people, they have to take their resource to the administration arm of the government.
Okay.
And this is where the resource owners at times they don't agree.
Okay.
Because the investor can come in and he has his own demands, and it is channeled through the administration arm of the government, and there are at times conflicts. So what we are trying to do is to get them into a level where they can understand each other's issues, and they can come to an understanding where they can come to a profit sharing model, so that both parties are happy. And we have seen instances where the resource owners get into a business, and halfway through they also realize that, oh, we are not getting the enough returns from for our resources, and then they start protesting and stopping all that, and the investor gets upset. So things like that have been happening in the past.
Mr. Jagat, what would the magnitude of this proposed entity be? I mean, from the sounds of it, it would be something that's worth millions of dollars. Yes. Because you've got resource owners, you've got the private sector, you've got welfare programs, whatnot. If it becomes an investment company, it can be very powerful, and in the wrong hands can be very dangerous financially, to the landowners, to the resource owners, to the business entities, and for the national economy. Given the way you're proposing it, you want every sector of Fiji's community to be involved.
It can be dangerous if it is handled or managed by a handful of people. What we are talking about here is getting almost all the resource owners, if possible, together, and they will have a management structure, and the Supreme Council will have their own secretariat, and the Business Council will have their own secretariat. So, and combining these together. So, in the end, as you said, it will have a huge, probably, corporate structure where millions of dollars will be involved. And even today, an entity like Fijian Holdings is working very well, and there's no danger there. But what we are saying is we will have multiple Fijian Holdings coming together, and that can only grow the economy. I don't see any danger there.
How many communities did you consult?
So far, we have been talking to the resource owners. So that means basically the Toki community. Apart from that, we have had discussions with some business communities, but mainly concerning on the resource owners as of this stage.
All right,
Who would select?
We'll carry on discussions after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is For the Record, and we're speaking with the leader of the Fiji United Freedom Party, Mr. Jagat Karunaratne. On the panel with us tonight, we have Nemani Ndelembatiki from Fiji Sun and Shirian Wilson from Fiji TV. Before the break, Mr. Jagat, we've had quite a lengthy discussion about the FUFP's proposal for a United Supreme Council for VT Holdings Limited and such. But let's just bring it to a close, because this is a proposal and you're going out, you're getting people's views on it. Nemani, I'll give you the last question with regards to this proposal.
I'm just interested to know how you're going to pick people to sit on that Supreme Council. You know, where would they come from, and who will select them?
It will start with the resource owners who are willing to be part of the Supreme Council, and it will grow from there. And if any national leader that has to be consulted in the process from any ethnic segment, they will become part of that. So you will have, at the end of the day, a group of people coming together, and they will have their own leadership, especially in the Toke community, that they have their system already in place.
Well, you realize when it takes its own life, you know, when it starts and carries on, it could become a rival group to the actual government, you know, because they've got everybody represented. That's what can happen. That it becomes a body where people will go to, because that's where things are going to get done, and you know, it might run into conflict with what government is trying to do.
This is why we have a political party to represent that element in the government. So this is where that entity and the government will join hands, and that's why we came into the political arena, form a political party to get this across, and then take it to the parliament, where that entity is not going to become an isolated entity on its own. So there will be a connection, there will be an element where it will be governed and controlled to a certain extent by the government as well.
All right. With that, Mr. Jagat, let me just point out to our viewers, this is a proposal by the Fiji United Freedom Party. It is, I understand, not your substantive manifesto. This is something that you're taking to the voters, getting their views on it and refining it.
Yes.
And it is an ideal that FUFP has at the moment.
Yes, of course. This is what we say is like we have planted the seed. It might be the wrong seed that we have planted. It may be the right one. And if it is the right one, so we are getting people to come together. We need broader participation. It has to be shaped up. Things probably have to be changed. So we are just presenting something, and we want people to come together and then have a broader participation on this, and see whether we can take it forward, or maybe people might say, no, this is not something that is going to work, which is fine.
Mm-hmm. So far as the FUFP's manifesto, which I understand it will be released soon, what are some of the policies that the FUFP wants to work on? Because come election time, people want to know what the party stands for. What is your stand on justice, on social welfare, on education, the work? So can you give us an overall picture of what we can expect in your actual manifesto?
As I was saying before, our focus has been on this model manifesto. Mm-hmm. And many of the aspects, the policy aspects, is coming as a result of this. For example, if you are looking at the education sector, scholarships, we have an allocation coming out of this model to be in line with the government policies that are already out there, and with some changes, like scholarship programs. So currently we are saying this many students will get scholarships. So if this model is in place, and if we have an financial allocation, we can add on to that. Similarly, the housing for people.
But I mean, you wouldn't run the entire country based on this model. The government has its own revenue generating arms. The government has ministries and departments which carry out essential services.
Yes.
What is your stand on those issues? What is the FUFP saying about, give me an example, what do you propose to do about health services not based on this model or based on the Supreme Council, but based on the fact that a government has a right to deliver medical services to the people?
Yeah. Well, we have prepared the manifesto beyond this, like addressing each and every sector. And also we have a 3-leader concept in the party where different leaders are focusing on different areas. So one is the education, health, and Itoki affairs, religious matters. So that is looked after by another co-leader. And we are currently refining the manifesto. So this is, but as I said, the model is separate, and we have a manifesto in detail. That will be presented most likely early next week. It will be released early next week.
Why do you feel the need to have somebody focusing on religious issues? We haven't seen that before in Fiji, where you have an elected leader responsible for religious issues.
Again, what we are saying here is not about focusing on the religious aspect of it, not about the guidelines and principles of a religion, so to speak. What we are saying is that from the religious arm, how we can reach out using that structure to reach out to people for welfare. So this is not going to be about what this religion is talking about, what this religion is trying to get them together. It's nothing like that. But to reach out using that structures in place.
Let me just bring you back to the issue of education. You had, I referred to one of the newspaper articles earlier today, that came out today, your comments about scholarships. The party does not agree with the current government's tertiary scholarship loan scheme. I personally believe a policy that has helped students access higher education, especially those whose parents cannot afford it. Why don't you agree with the policy that is currently in place?
First of all, this news article came out from a discussion campaign meeting that happened a couple of nights ago. And during that campaign meeting, one of the candidates, he has distributed a list of items that he wanted to talk about. And that is how this article came about. It does not mean that the party as a whole is against the current system. However, what we should mention here is this. There is a scholarship scheme on merit basis, which we agree, but we need to look at whether the students are having equal access to facilities as well. That is where we disagree. It does not mean that we don't agree with the merit-based system, but if it is on merits, then we need to also ensure that they have equal access to the educational facilities. That is where it comes from.
There was also mention of scholarships for those in Form 7 whose parents earn less than 16,000. How do you propose to finance that?
That, once again, as I said, it was by a candidate who distributed his own items as a reference. And this is also part of our manifesto that we are still discussing on, and how to address that. In our manifesto, unlike probably in any other manifesto, each item we are explaining how it can be done, where the money is coming from. So at the moment, the things have been picked up in party campaign meetings, and then it's published in the media. I know it is probably not the right way to do things, because we haven't released our manifesto yet. And we should not probably be talking in detail about those specific items, and we should be focusing on talking in general until the manifesto is released. That's why we are focusing right now to release our manifesto as soon as possible, most likely early next week.
All right.
What are your
we'll have to take a break, Nemani. We'll be right back with more discussions.
Okay.
Welcome back to For the Record. We're almost to the end of our show tonight, but we'll carry on with our discussions with the leader of the Fiji United Freedom Party, Mr. Jagat Karunaratne. Nemani, before the break, you had a question.
Yeah. Some issues are dominating political discussion right now. The issue of a secular state, the issue of a common identity, the issue of land, the indigenous rights, the return of the Great Council of Chiefs. Now, I know you mentioned something about resources. What is the party's position on all these issues?
We basically agree with secular state, common identity, and many of the other aspects that are in the Constitution. I believe that the issue comes in with certain comments that were going around last week or so. When you talk about something like equality as a universal principle, it depends on how you interpret it. When it comes to Constitution, how it is described in the Constitution, that basically means that you have equal access to education, justice, and all the other things, and also from the humanity point of view. If we are questioning about equality as a principle, then we can also question democracy as a principle. Why do we going out there and then crying out loud that we need democracy? Even that cannot be applied in true sense if you really look at that, because 51, if somebody gets a majority of 51 and 49 is a minority, and it might not work the same way. Similarly, equality. If you put the principle like equality when you're looking at your race issues or land issues and all that, of course that makes sense too. Can equality be applied in its true sense to a country like Fiji is another question.
Mr. Jagat,
So the indigenous rights, do you support what Sodelpa has been preaching about indigenous rights and the return of the Great Council of Chiefs? Do you support them?
In terms of GCC,
yeah,
I don't think I have any authority whatsoever to talk about it, and I wouldn't want to talk about it. If people,
Why?
It is because it's something to do with the traditional people, and it is something to do with how they feel about it. And even today, at times, I don't feel that I'm a foreigner, I'm a visitor here. I feel part of the family. But at times, some people look at me, and then even on Facebook and all that, they call me a foreign flower or foreign thorn. You know, what I'm trying to say is that it is something that has to be discussed with those communities. And if they really want the GCC to come back as an entity that represents them, they will go with Sodelpa, and it might come back.
Based on what you've said about equal citizenry and common identity, you do realize that there are two trains of thought right now across the political spectrum. You've got Sodelpa, which believes that there can be no equal citizenry, and that the indigenous population, because they're indigenous, have certain rights, whereas the rest of the political parties don't share that belief.
Yes.
Where does Fiji First fall in all of this? Which side are you on? I'm sorry, my apologies. Where does Fiji United Freedom Party fall in all of this?
If you look at the indigenous rights in that sense, where the United Nations conventions and all that, that's a separate issue. And if you try to apply the indigenous issues in the equality, in the sense of equality, it is not right, because it cannot be applied that way. As I said, when a country, especially a country like Fiji, when you have two major ethnic groups, and can we really say that we can apply equality? If you do that, do we have the equal access to resources like Indian people? Do they have the equal access to the land? No. So I think what is happening here is that the party like Sodelpa, they are focusing, they are using the equality and the interpretation of equality, applying it to the indigenous and race issues, which is where this conflict is coming in. And but if they do apply it to the Constitution and equal access and things of that sort, that is different aspect altogether. This is where this confusion is coming from. So what we believe is that when it comes to the constitutional principles, it is about equality in terms of having equal access, having equal economic status, and all that. When it comes to indigenous issues, that has to be dealt separately, and it has to be with with discussions with those community and how they want to deal with it. It becomes a sensitive issue, basically.
Who do you see your party being able to work with after elections? Say it came to a point where your party won a few seats and you needed to form a coalition.
What we would say is that at the moment there are lots of discussions going on, and almost every party is confident in winning the election. But in a true sense, we really cannot say what the people want. So if people chooses a party, and if they think that this is a party that is going to take the Fiji forward, and we need to respect that. What we are trying to say here is that whoever gets a majority, and that is the majority of the people, and then if there is a need for us to work with them, we will certainly work with them. We can't go against what people want.
Just bringing your attention to, I think, a huge issue that we're currently faced with, employment or unemployment, that is. How does your party propose to further innovation so that new businesses thrive and we create new jobs?
This is one of the things. Again, I don't want to go back to the model that we talked about, because we talked about it before. But coming back to the same issue, Fiji is like a small family, like only about 900,000 people and so many resources around us. It's a matter of getting these resources and utilize them to benefit the resource owners plus the others. This is where a lot of employment also can be created. And during our discussions, especially going around the country, we have realized that majority, even if you don't have like a resource sitting on your land, just if it is just farmland, that can be utilized to us in sense where the economy can grow and more businesses will come in and more employment will happen. And it is just a matter of, from what we believe, is getting these things in the right order, where people can come in to share their resources and then moving the economy forward.
Mr. Jagat, we've basically come to the end of the show, but before we wrap up, I want to ask you a very quick question, a short reply. What do you think of your party's chances in these elections?
We have tremendous support from the rural communities, from Naitasiri interior, especially in Nandronga Nawasa and Ra. If we are looking at realistically, we would be able to get at least 5 to 6 seats.
That's still a big number for a 50-seat parliament. But bearing in mind that you're going up against some very established parties and some very popular parties.
It depends also on the number of people who will vote on the day, because the threshold is 5%, and from there it gets added on. So we are going on the higher scale. And if we get like 50,000 votes, and that is good enough to have 4, 5, 6 seats.
Do you get the support of the Sri Lankan community here? I mean, more Sri Lankans are coming to the country, and you know, their population is has increased quite significantly. Do they support you?
Unfortunately or fortunately, I haven't been in touch with many of them. I would say even none.
Because you are in a unique position. I mean, you are probably the first person coming out from outside of Fiji to lead a political party here. Yeah, so you are in a unique position. So
it's not because of I have a support of the Sri Lankan community or other overseas community. I think it's because of the way I have been with the people of Fiji, and especially with the Toki community, and I have many friends, and we used to share a lot of things. And also, I believe that it also comes with the experiences that I have from my travels around. So people want to listen.
So do you regard yourself now as more Fijian than Sri Lankan?
Of course.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll have to finish it off tonight. Mr. Jagat, thank you very much for coming in. Shirian, Nemani, thank you very much for being on the show. That was For the Record tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next Sunday. Good night.